We're having some issues going on YouTube. So it's streaming on the website and we'll upload to YouTube later this week when we can figure it out. But other than that, we're ready to go.
All right, that sounds good. Good morning, everyone. Beautiful spring morning. We will get the Public Works and Mobility Committee to order. So with that, Ashley, if we can do a roll call for, we will put information on how to participate first. Please. Okay, so we continue to meet virtually, and you can find all information on how to participate by going to the city's website under the meetings tab. You can leave a voice message for council by calling 406-552-6012, and you can email us at council@ci.missoula.mt.us. And if you are participating in this meeting, let us know if you would like to provide public comment, and we will work with you to make sure that you do. Okay, and if we can do a quick roll call for attendance, please.
Anderson?
Present.
Becerra?
Present.
Carlino?
Present.
Contos?
Here.
Hess?
Present.
Jones? Jordan? Nugent?
Present.
Savage? Cheryl?
Present.
Vasica? West?
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, next we have minutes to approve. Are there any changes to those minutes? Okay, seeing none, those will stand approved. We will take public comment on any items not on the agenda. I don't see anyone in attendance to provide public comment. So with that, we will move to our first item on the agenda. And that is the reappointment to the Parking Commission. And Ian is here to present.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me this morning. Today, I just wanted to talk to you all about Glenda Bradshaw, who is up for reappointment to the Parking Commission Board. And some background, Glenda has been just an active member on the Parking Commission Board since June of 2020. And as a small business owner in Missoula and her experience serving the community in various roles, Glenda has just a valuable perspective on parking related matters within our jurisdiction. She understands the mission of the Parking Commission, from our role in making downtown Missoula a great experience to working with all to provide and manage parking and parking alternatives in our areas of responsibility. And in my short time here since July of 2021, my interactions with Glenda, it really shows that she demonstrates her care and really the uphold of our charge to that mission. Another really important piece is her education and background in accounting, and we find that all valuable, that we can use her as just a tool to ensure that we're being good stewards of our resources. And really, when it comes down to it, she has been more than valuable in helping me learn about the community since my arrival. And with that, yeah, we fully support the Parking Commission. Fully supports the reappointment of Glenda to the Parking Commission Board.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for the background, and I agree. I think she has been participating and improving our community in several different capacities throughout the years. So see her reappointed. I have Jordan Hess.
Thanks, Marita. I just wanted to make the recommended motion and speak to it briefly.
Yeah, please.
I've had the pleasure of working with Glenda a little bit on downtown issues and parking issues as well, and I just find her to be delightful to work with and incredibly dedicated and intelligent and thoughtful. And I would be pleased to have her continuing to serve on the Parking Commission board.
Right. We have a motion on the floor. Any public comments? Don't have anyone in the public yet. Anyone comments? Okay. With that, we will take a roll call vote, please, Ashley.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Carlino,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Nugent,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. Good to see you, Ian. Thanks for bringing this to us.
Thank you, and have a good day.
Thanks. Okay, our next item on the agenda this morning is a service agreement with Sprinkler Maniac for the Poplar Farm maintenance, and Jean Connell is in attendance to present. Good morning, Jean.
Good morning. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for having me this morning. Jean Connell, a resource recovery superintendent. I'm here to recommend that we enter into an agreement with Sprinkler Maniacs to operate and maintain the irrigation system at the Poplar Farm. This is a not to exceed $108,675 contract. This is the same not to exceed cost from last season. There hasn't been an increase. These funds are budgeted from the Wastewater Enterprise Fund.
Okay, thanks. Any questions from council members? Stacy.
Hi, I'm happy to make the recommended motion, and I'm happy to see that in what seems like everything is going up cost-wise, that we were able to negotiate this contract to be the same as last year. So that makes budgeting a little easier. So happy to make the motion and support it.
Great. We still have no public for public comment. Any final questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, if we could take a roll call vote, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Carlino,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Nugent,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Okay, that is 8 yeses and 0 nos.
Great, so that will go on our consent agenda. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
And our last item on the agenda is a professional services agreement with Utilis Incorporated for an underground water leak satellite imagery analysis. That sounds very exciting. So Jerry, you have this presentation for us.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'd like to present an agreement with, it's actually Astera, it's a Utilis company, to do what's called an SAR technology flyover, synthetic aperture radar flyover of our system to help us locate leaks. I'm sure you guys have heard leakage is one of our biggest problems, and we're still trying to think outside the box on how to find these leaks. Being what was used to be a glacial lake, the water just perks right down to the ground, doesn't surface. So it's really difficult for us to locate these things. We've purchased some equipment over the last year and a half to help us do some listing on fire hydrants. We've purchased a new correlator to help us pinpoint leaks when we get an idea where a leak might be. But the problem is finding out where the leak is. Logan found this company in July. We actually had a presentation from them in July, and we talked it over. And since it wasn't really a budgeted item for us in our budget, we kind of decided the best thing to do would be to wait to the last quarter of this fiscal year for us to see if we have money left over to do it. And we do out of the Water Enterprise Fund. We can easily afford to pay for this. It would be $27,200. I reached out to the city of Spokane, and I saw that they had actually gone in front of the city council to authorize flyover of their city, and talked to Lauren Searle, who was the superintendent there with the city, and asked how well it worked for them. And he said it almost worked too well. They ended up with so much work they couldn't keep up with it. But it allowed them to go from a 13% leakage rate down to a 10% with just using this technology. They were planning on, I think it was either late last year or early this year, to do another flyover. And actually, I think what they were going to do is use a second company to come in and help them actually pinpoint the leaks and locate them, because it was just too onerous for their staff to keep up with it. So anyway, $27,200 out of the water fund. I do have Austin Marison and Eric Treratola from Astera. They're both part of the panel right now. So if you guys have questions, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to field them. It won't take long at all for you guys to get into too deep water for me to be able to answer questions. So anyway, that's what we've got.
Thank you, Jerry. Yeah, I was asking about this yesterday to Logan and saying once we identify all these leaks, then that's gonna be our marching orders, and I'm sure it's gonna be significant, and the map's gonna show where all of these are. Any questions from council members? I'm always amazed how technology works. So, Jordan, go ahead.
Well, I can make the motion, so you have a motion on the floor, and then I have a comment and question. I guess my comment is that I really appreciate the data-driven approach, and I think that this laying as an overlay to our pavement condition survey and our other data points that we have will give us good information on where to prioritize digging if we have to repair a street and a water main, and we know that we have a huge backlog of capital needs for the water system for main replacements. So this feels like a really important way to help us target that, and also maybe identify areas that have really acute problems. And I guess my question is kind of really broadly, how does it work? But maybe more specifically, are there concerns specific to Missoula that would make this that could compromise this? Is there anything about our soil composition or anything that would be a concern specifically in the Missoula environment?
Eric or Austin, do you want to handle this?
Sure. Yeah, I can help out here. Great question, Jordan. And how it works is we're using, just like Jerry said, synthetic aperture radar. Our founder was part of a program to help find water on Mars, which the group did find water on Mars, actually 5,000 feet beneath the Martian surface. And so he was kind of thinking, that's really interesting. I wonder if we can use that same technology here on Earth, which was really the genesis of the idea of Utilis, or now we're doing business as, we're still Utilis, that's our official name, but doing business as Astera. lot of people couldn't pronounce Utilis, so we had to change that. But so it's basically using synthetic aperture radar, and what it's looking for is the specific signature of treated water. The nice thing is, throughout the world, people like their water to taste the same. So there's a very unique signature. It's basically the conductivity level, and we're looking for that signature in saturated soil. So potable water has chlorine, chloramine, and fluoride, and that's the very specific signature that we're looking for. Then we tie that to, we're looking for that signature within about 18 feet of your GIS data. If you don't have GIS data, we can use roads. And that's how we're actually able to identify where the leaks are. As far as any problems in the Missoula area, we can see through asphalt, concrete, any varying soils. We can see up to 10 feet. The biggest challenge would be, and this is just a timing issue, which actually doesn't come into play at all at this point, is if we have like the winter melt. We wouldn't want to have a satellite overpass during the time that the snow is melting, and that's just because it's going to kind of dilute the potable water that we might see. So I haven't checked your weather or looked out any of your windows in Montana, but I don't think we have a bunch of snow melting, or at least when we do an overpass. But that would really be the only challenge.
Can I have a follow-up?
Go ahead.
Is the fact that our water is so lightly chlorinated present any challenges, or is it still perceptible?
So we would probably want to get your specific signature. Our scientists would have some very particular questions. I know we did a project for the city of Portland last summer, and they had a chlorine shortage, and they actually reduced the amount of chlorine in their water because of the shortage by 30%. So what we did was we recalibrated. We talked to them. I know it has something to do with suspended solids. I'm just a sales guy, so I'm not really sure exactly what the questions are, but we can ask your guys basically what is it that your system has, and then recalibrate our algorithms to where we're looking for specifically that type of water. That's a great call out, though. We would definitely want to do that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the information, and I always appreciate a data-driven approach like this, and I'm supportive of the contract.
Yeah, another nice thing, Jerry was saying that you guys are using collators, which, gosh, for each site, you could probably only do a block or two at a time, and it probably takes 15 to 30 minutes. So to try to do that on a system-wide approach is very difficult, whereas our system, what it does is it'll take a complete scan of the 340 miles of the Missoula system. We then isolate 5 to 10% of what we call points of interest that now you can then deploy the collator out in those areas, looking to finally pinpoint the leak. So especially with Easter just going by, I really think we're very much like the really nice uncle that tells you you're getting warmer, and but it's still going to require Jerry and his team to pinpoint the leak.
Eric, how long does it take to get all the data collected?
The biggest thing is scheduling the satellite. That's probably our biggest. Everything's on demand. We're not taking archived images. So typically 4 to 6 weeks from the point of you guys saying, yes, let's go, to us delivering the analysis. Figure we could allow 2 to 4 weeks and then 2 weeks on our end. But if everything goes well in scheduling, it could be, 3 weeks even. So, but typically we say 4 to 6 weeks.
Great. Logan, I see your hand up. Do you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, thanks. I just want to clarify, we don't fluoridate the water. I mean, there is a small amount of fluoride naturally occurring, but I know that can be a hot button issue. So I just wanted to clarify that's not something that we do here.
Okay, good. Yeah. No, that's great. It doesn't go, it's not like chlorine. It doesn't evaporate, so it stays. So I think it's a pretty smart deal. Pretty smart idea. Yeah, so we would definitely want to get your unique signature of, so we'll put a note on that and make sure we follow up and get exactly what your suspended solids and what does your water look like. Absolutely.
Great. Heidi and then Mike Nugent.
I was also going to point out that we don't fluorinate our water and make sure that isn't an issue, but I was actually wondering if we'd be able to see the satellites. I assume you're directing them. There's somehow they're getting maneuvered to pass over Missoula in a predictable pattern, I would assume. I don't know, it'd just be kind of a cool thing to watch happen. I have a kid who really, we have a telescope, loves the night sky, so it'd be be a super fun thing to actually be able to watch.
It's a good question. The satellites we use, especially ALOS-2, which is part of the Japanese Space Agency, that's kind of the mainstay. We probably do 80% of our business with that. We also use the Argentinian Space Agency. They have SAOCOM-1 and SAOCOM-2 that we use. They're in a polar orbit. So basically, they're not maneuvering at all. They're just going around the planet, and then they get their coverage as the Earth rotates, is how it's happening. So they're going in a north-south, 390 mile up into space. So it's relatively large. I mean, they're about 100 miles, 140 miles higher than the space station. I think that's about 150 miles up. So they're higher than that. It's about the size of a school bus. I don't know if you would see it. You'd probably need a telescope and a fast-moving one at that. But yeah, so it's in a polar orbit. So every 90 minutes, it's going around the planet. Every 2 weeks, it could get the exact same angle. Basically, just repeats the exact same coverage. So yeah, that's how it works.
That's super cool.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah, and we've already verified now. Just last week, we hit the milestone. We verified 50,000 leaks that have been actually acoustically or with some other device pinpointed. And we've saved over 170 billion gallons of water. So we're very excited.
Are we going to get some images of, I assume so, of what that looks like?
Oh yeah, we could actually show you the image itself.
I
Absolutely.
would love to see one. And that's my final thing. This is
it's sort of, honestly, I hate to be like a Debbie Downer, but it sort of looks like you're on the wrong station, like channel 2 or 3 or whatever channel you don't have, and it just snow. That's what it looks like.
I mean,
but yeah, I'll send you some.
Oh, that'd be awesome. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you. Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions, but first, Eric, I don't know that anybody's has Zoom background better and more relevant to the topic than you do.
Well, thank you.
So just want to recognize that.
That's funny.
But I have a question, and I think it's probably best for Logan and Jerry, and then I probably have a couple of follow-ups. Presumably this data or these pictures or images are going to show leak issues on private service lines as well.
Correct. Good point. Yes, it will, because we can't tell, we won't be able to differentiate. We don't have that resolution. Basically what we do is we create about a 300-foot radius buffer zone. We call it a point of interest that needs exploring. So anything that's within that, any of the pipes within your system within that 300-foot radius or 600-foot diameter needs investigation. And that will include both, public and private utilities. So, and that's a nice thing. If you find something, a lot of times it's on the private side, but it needs to be fixed because maybe the meter's not working. So it is a cost to the city. But even if it's not, it's just a good neighborly, stewards of preserving water, that, hey, you got a leak on your side, and clients definitely appreciate that. So, but you're absolutely right. We cannot differentiate between the two.
Logan or Jerry, are we going to do anything with that data? And I have some questions after that.
I'm sure if I can go ahead. So I think our fear with this is, we know their resolution is, like I think they've said, down to a quarter gallon a minute is the leak that they can pick up. And I think what I fear is we're going to get a map back with blue circles over the entire system. I mean, that's I think a legitimate fear, is that we just have so much leakage. It's going to be, hard to say, okay, here's a priority, because they can't really prioritize. They just say a point of interest. So, I think it's important for us to look for new technologies. I think it's important for us to do this study, but I think we're kind of going into it with our eyes wide open, as our system is so leaky that I think it's going to find a lot. And so we are going to follow up. We've invested just this year in a new correlator, like Eric was talking about. It's been really accurate. So when we have reason to, that there's noise in the system, we can take it out, and it can actually pinpoint, where within that blue circle the leak is happening. And the few that we've dug this year, they've been spot on. So we have every intention of following up. At some point we're gonna have to start budgeting more money for leak repairs, just because it's got to be more of a priority. We're actually kind of working on creating a new position, a leak detection specialist. We'll be bringing that to you folks when we can, because we think it's important to beef up our staff time devoted to looking for leaks. So I think this is I think the start of a more concerted effort to really try to confront our leakage situation.
Yeah. And Logan, what we'll do is we see we see more leaks than we actually share typically. And we usually like to do about a 3-to-1 ratio. So that being the case, it'll probably be we'll probably see about 100 to 120 points of interest within your system. And we limit it down. And with our algorithms, we keep feeding the data back. So what we'll do is we're starting to learn quite a bit with machine learning, and we will actually run that through the analysis and only give you kind of the top 100 to 120 leaks. So we're not going to flood you with, even if we see more, we're starting to learn that, given this data that we have here, these will be more likely the leaks that can be found. And so you're not going to get flooded with them. We'll filter it for you. Yeah.
Mike, go ahead.
You don't want to chase shadows.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate the information, but I really am trying to get some city perspective on this question, because what I want to understand is if we get that information on homeowners, are we going to be following up with them? And I think everybody knows that the service line is owned by or the responsibility of the homeowner, and that's a significant cost. And I just want to know if any thought's been given to how aggressive we're going to be in that. And then my other question, which you might not have an answer for now, is once we have that data, is it going to make it harder for those homeowners who have been identified to get the insurance for these water lines? Because, I worked with a couple doing a water line last week, and their bid to replace was well over $10,000. So I'm just curious if we've given any thought to that, because I worry about if we get that data into our system, is it going to make it harder for people to get the insurance?
I can certainly try to address that. Our process to date is if we become aware of a leak on a customer's line, which typically would start with a customer calling us to say, hey, I've got low pressure, or I've got noise on my line, or that sort of thing. So a lot of it is sort of customer initiated. But, our typical process is we do send them a letter. The city code basically says, it's the customer's responsibility to not waste water and to keep their service in working order. So we send letters out. We do try to follow up. We work with the customer. We're not out being heavy-handed, shutting people's water off and that sort of thing. But it's, we are trying to get the customer to deal with these. We have some options for them. If they're low income, the HRC's got a low interest loan program. Missoula Water has a loan program that was, seeded with some, water utility funds that is available. So, we're trying to help provide the customer options, but, at some point when we really start focusing more on this, those loan funds will be pretty quickly consumed. I think there's $200,000 in the fund. And, I think your $10,000 example is not unusual. People ask, and, we'll typically say, between 5 and 10,000 is what you could expect for the cost of replacing a service line. To address your point about the service line warranties, it's a good question. There is a exclusion for sort of pre-existing conditions. If you have water bubbling out of the ground, technically you wouldn't be eligible for the service. And there's a 30-day holding period, I think, once you start the service before you could even, call to file a claim. So I think your question's a good one. I don't really have an answer for it. I mean, yes, I think if a leak is specifically identified on a property, we're not providing that information to service line warranties. They don't call and ask us if there's, if a customer has a leak. But, if we have knowledge of a leak, obviously if they call and ask, I think we would have to provide whatever information we have. So it's a legitimate concern, and I don't really know how to address it. The warranties has been pretty successful. There's the latest mailing campaign. There's now, I think, 1,115 customers in Missoula that are using that. They've subscribed to the warranty service. I've been asking them for information. I mean, they've done some claim work. I mean, they have replaced some services, fixed some leaks. I don't know how many. I mean, it's not, there's limits to the coverage. It only covers if you have low pressure, less than 35 PSI, or if there's surfacing leaks. So just because you have some noise on a line, call up service line warranties. They're not going to just run out and fix every service line in town. So I think there's some good policy questions here that we probably need to involve the council in about how aggressively we want to deal with this. And, you know, clearly it's going to create hardships for some homeowners. And I think the number I gave you recently was there's about probably $120 million, you know, system-wide sort of liability here for service line replacement. So it's, you know, more money than the community probably has available, you know, to tackle it all at once. So I'm certainly interested in getting feedback from the council, because it is definitely, I would consider it a policy question that you all, I think we would welcome feedback on that from you folks.
We are technically out of time and borrowing some from LUP. So I'm gonna let Daniel, if you have a question, go ahead. And then Heidi, is this a follow-up? I guess what I'm trying to get at it, if you have further questions, maybe email them to Logan and Jerry. Go ahead, Daniel.
Thanks. I was just gonna ask on the note of paying for some of the leaks, if there's a chance that if we look at the agreement with Mountain Water, if we find leaks that we didn't know about before, if there's a chance that they would be on the line for paying anything, or is that not an option? Okay. So, okay.
All right. Heidi, do you have a question that needs answering now?
No, it's just a comment about, so I was just gonna say that I feel comfortable moving forward without having this exactly defined at the moment, because what I heard the consultant say is that we would only get data on like the 110 biggest leaks. And I think those are unlikely to be on private property just because of the size of the lines. So I think it's an issue we need to figure out, but maybe we can do round 2 to figure that out.
To follow that up, you'll see service leaks, that I can guarantee. It's really the algorithm finds, the way it works, it's not the biggest leaks, it's the ones that are going to be most, what we've found will be the easiest ones to be heard, if that makes any sense. So in other words, let's say if there's a bunch of lines and there are a bunch of PVC or something like that versus something on a metal line, it'll go towards the ductile iron or the metal line where it could be more easily heard. So it's not necessarily the size of the leak, because we don't know if it's a small leak for a long period of time, a big leak for a short period of time. We have no idea. It's when we do one pass, it's very binary. But with our algorithms, we have started to determine and our success rate of when we can verify a leak much higher. So using this prioritization. So, but it's not necessarily tied to it is a larger leak or not. It's just it could be acoustically found with a collator or listening device. But yeah.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I feel comfortable moving forward with this. I mean, we know we have a leakage problem, and being able to better quantify what we're dealing with. I think it's step 1, and how we move forward and what we do with that information. That's a second step. And certainly I think, you know, we can have the conversation about, okay, now we know how big of a problem it is and where it is. How do we tackle this in a manner that's in accordance with our existing policies, or if we need to review something. But I feel confident that we can at least get to step 1, if that makes sense. Thanks everyone for all your information. We have a motion on the floor, no public to provide public comment. So we will take a vote.
Anderson?
Yes.
Becerra?
Yes.
Carlino?
Yes.
Contos?
Yes.
Hess?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Nugent?
No.
Cheryl?
Yes.
West?
Yes.
That is 8 yeses and 1 no.
Mike, would you like this on committee reports? I think we have to per our new rules. No?
Honestly, I've got questions and I'm like, I love the idea of finding leaks and I support it, but I think we've got some questions we need to answer before we do this, in my opinion. So, I mean, I'm not going to hold it up, so you can put it on consent agenda. That's fine.
Jordan, can you remind me quickly if we have to put it on committee reports if it's not a full consent?
It's your prerogative. It can, if Mike is comfortable with it and you're comfortable with it, it can go on the consent agenda.
Okay, Mike, are you okay with consent agenda or?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so that will be on our consent agenda. Heidi?
I was just going to make the request that if you send additional questions that the answers are shared with us, because we always have the opportunity to change our mind between now and Monday. And I think having informed votes is important.
Yeah.
I just think that the figuring out if we're going to send notices to more homeowners or not, I mean, that's a real cost. And I think 10,000 is a low end of the estimate. So I just don't think we can figure that out by Monday.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay, so that will be on our consent agenda, and let's keep this conversation going at a later time and via email so we can get some more answers, please. With that, thank you everyone for bringing this forward. It's like science fiction a little bit. Okay, with that, we would be adjourned. Thanks, Jordan, for the extra minutes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Logan. Let us know if we can help in any way.